Now, on the 10th of December, musicians, actors, writers, and academics will join over 150 blind people and persons with disabilities in a march from the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition to the union buildings. They say they are fighting for the rights of blind persons and organizations to be able to translate material into braille and other accessible formats, and for South African creatives to receive fair royalties for their work. For more on this, I'm joined now by Blind SA Vice President Christo de Klerk and the chairman of the South Africa's Guild of Actors, Jack Devnarain. Jack, I'll begin with you. 9 years on, I suppose, it's still not signed. That bill, we've been back and forth talking about it. President Cyril Ramaphosa sending it back to Parliament. Initially, it was as if the parliamentarians were saying this is a done deal, but it wasn't a done deal, right? And it's still in contention.
Very much in contention, and in fact we had some hope when the bills were initially signed by the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces in March 2019, but it took the president a full 15 months, and in fact had it not been for Blind SA leading an argument in the Constitutional Court itself to force the president to focus his attention on the bills, I believe we might still be sitting in the position that we are in now. Certainly the reason that the South African Guild of Actors is supporting and will be present with the representatives of Blind SA at the March on International Human Rights Day is because we fully support the effort, and we want to draw the attention of the president and our legislature to the work that must be done in signing off the bills when hopefully when they resume Parliament early next year.
Christo, what are the commonalities or similarities, shall I say, between what the artists, the writers, the actors are calling for and what the blind community is calling for?
We have two stakes in this. First, we strongly, vigorously support the signing of the bill because we also have blind creatives who also need to make a living and who need the provisions of the bill. But then it goes wider than that. We suffer from a book famine. Blind persons have access to less than 0.5% of publications in accessible format. So we need the copyright exemptions, which are brought by Section 19D of the Copyright Amendment Bill, so that it would pave the way for government to accede to the Marrakesh Treaty, which has been around for more than 7 years already, which provides for copyright exemptions to make material accessible or to convert material into accessible format for blind people. Without that, we are stuck with the old Copyright Act from 1978, Colonial Act, who benefits the big companies, the well-moneyed collectives, and it has no copyright exemptions, so that we have this book famine. We went to the Constitutional Court to try and compel the president to sign the bill. He executed his other option in that he returned the bill to Parliament using 6, what he assumed to be constitutional reservations that he had for those matters to be reworked. And by doing that, he is prolonging our book famine. And we feel that we have had enough. We've struggled for decades now to have equal access to publications. You know, sighted people go to a library, they take out any book, they can read it. Yeah. Not so for us. We need it in accessible format. Now, so we can't have this bill continue being bickered around for more than another 4 years or so, and that's why we're taking to the streets on Thursday.
Jack, copyright exceptions is particularly part of what is going back and forth right now. Apparently, the wording of it was not correct. It's the fair use clause in as far as permission, when permission should be granted and when permission should not be granted. Talking exactly about that, how does that and how did it play out, maybe to be precise, during the time of COVID-19, and how would artists have benefited from having that particular clause in?
a very good way to describe it is that there are South African delegates who are already pursuing the World International Trade Organization, asking for special concessions to be made so that South Africa may be able to access the research and the development required for the production of a COVID-19 vaccine. This is basically asking the world to say, please make information available to us so that it is not protected by copyright and so that it is not exclusive intellectual property that is kept out of our grasp. South Africa understands all too well that we need to have access for the purposes of research, for the purposes of education, and our colleagues, certainly in the Fees Must Fall movement, know exactly what we are talking about. So South Africa understands that we are looking for access, and in the case of COVID-19, we are literally talking about a matter of survival. So fair use must be seen in that context. And certainly the aspect of the bill that speaks directly to the needs of performers is fair royalties. And this is the part that speaks to our right to earn a living through the residual income when the film and television work that we produce, that we are part of and that we perform in, is seen, downloaded and streamed around the world. The bills are very important in that they contain the provision for fair royalties. And so far, the narrative in discussing these royalties has not been with South African actors. It has been a domain contained in discussions by international film producers, international film studios, and it has not been sitting with South African actors who the bills are supposed to benefit most.
Jack, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming through today. That was Jack Devnarain. He is, of course, the chairperson for the South Africa's Guild of Actors. Christo de Klerk, the vice president for Blind South Africa as well.